You know that sharp, sour taste when you bite into a lemon? Or that weirdly slippery feeling of soap on your hands? Well, those feelings are actually little clues to this invisible chemical world that's happening all around us. And, believe it or not, inside of us. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the science of acids, bases, and pH. So what's the real chemical secret here? What connects all these different feelings and properties? That's the big question we're tackling. We are going to decode the language that your own senses are speaking to you every single day. And the key to this whole mystery? It's this thing right here, the pH scale. I'm sure you've seen it before, but what do these numbers actually tell us? From battery acid to the cleaner under your sink, everything has its place on this scale. Let's figure out what it's really measuring. Okay, to get the scale, we first have to know what we're even talking about. What makes something an acid or a base? Scientists tried to nail this down for a long, long time. Let's start with one of the first big ideas for how to categorize them.
So, way back in 1887, a chemist named Svante Arrhenius came up with a pretty straightforward idea. He basically said, look, when you dissolve something in water, if it spits out hydrogen ions, those are the H plus ions, it's an acid. If it releases hydroxide ions, the OH minus ones, it's a base. Simple, clean, and a really powerful place to start.
And here, you can see it in action. On the left, you've got hydrochloric acid, HCl. You put it in water, and bam, it lets go of those hydrogen ions. Textbook Arrhenius acid. On the right, sodium hydroxide, NaOH, releases hydroxide ions. A perfect Arrhenius base. It really seemed like the puzzle was solved. For a little while, anyway. But, science is all about kicking the tires on a theory. And pretty soon, a problem popped up. Take ammonia, NH3. We know it's a base, but just look at its formula. Where's the OH? There's no hydroxide group for it to give away. So how could it possibly be a base under the Arrhenius theory? This one little molecule showed that the definition just wasn't complete. So, fast forward to 1923. Two chemists, Bronsted and Lowry, came up with a much bigger, more complete picture. They shifted the whole focus. They said, forget about what's just being released. Let's look at what's being exchanged. They realized that a hydrogen ion, H+, is really just a single proton. So in their theory, an acid is a proton donor and a base is a proton acceptor. It's like a tiny chemical game of catch. And boom, here's our ammonia puzzle solved. Ammonia doesn't have a hydroxide to give away. No problem. Instead, as you can see here, it just takes a proton from a water molecule. By accepting that proton, ammonia acts as the base, and water, because it donated the proton, is actually acting as the acid in this reaction. This new theory was so much more flexible. Okay, so now that we have a really solid idea of what acids and bases are, let's go back to our chemical ruler, the pH scale, and see how it actually measures all this. The pH scale is basically a measure of how many of those hydrogen ions are floating around. All the way up at the top, pH 0, you've got super intense stuff like battery acid. As we move down, we get to things, like soda and orange juice around pH 3. Right in the middle is pure water, perfectly neutral at 7. And then as we go higher, we get into bases like ammonia and way at the other end, powerful drain cleaner. So the rules of the road are pretty simple. Anything below 7 is acidic, exactly 7 is neutral, and anything above 7 is basic, which you'll also hear called alkaline. The lower the number, the more acidic it is. Easy enough, right? But, and this is maybe the single most important thing to get about the pH scale, it is not a simple 1, 2, 3 linear scale. It's logarithmic. And trust me, that changes everything. So what does logarithmic actually mean here? Well, it all boils down to the power of 10. What this means is that every single whole number you go down the scale, the acidity multiplies by 10. So a solution with a pH of 3 isn't just a little bit more acidic than one with a pH of 4, it is 10 times more acidic. That means your coffee at pH 5 is 10 times more acidic than milk at pH 6. And check this out, lemon juice at pH 2 is a 100 times more acidic than tomato juice at pH 4. That is a massive chemical difference. So why does any of this matter outside of a lab? Because this exact chemistry is running your life right now. Let's talk about the unsung heroes that keep you alive, buffers. Okay, get this. Your blood has to be kept at a pH of almost exactly 7.4.
It's on a chemical razor's edge. If it shifts even a tiny bit, down to 7.2 or up to 7.6, your body's cells start to fail. It can be incredibly dangerous. So when you chug an acidic soda or your muscles make lactic acid when you work out, how does your blood not just spiral out of control?
The answer is a buffer system, and you have to see this to believe it. Look at the top image. We add some acid to plain water, and the pH just plummets from 7 all the way down to 4. That's a 1,000-fold jump in acidity. Now, look at the bottom. We add the exact same amount of acid to a buffer solution, and the pH barely even flinches. It moves from 7.0 to 6.9. It's like a chemical shock absorber. It's amazing.
Simply put, buffers are solutions that just refuse to let the pH change very much. They're like bodyguards for your pH. They have a mix of chemical partners that can grab and neutralize any extra acid or base that gets thrown into the system, keeping everything stable and calm. And that, right there, brings us full circle. Your blood is one of the most sophisticated buffer solutions there is. It is constantly, silently performing this incredible, life-saving balancing act. With every single thing you eat, every breath you take, this amazing chemical system is working nonstop to keep you right in that tiny, safe pH zone. So from the simple, sour taste of a lemon all the way to the critical stability of your own blood, the chemistry of acids and bases is just woven into everything. It really makes you stop and think, what other invisible chemical systems are humming away right now just to keep you alive?